been 7 years since my initial ACL and meniscus surgery, so I'm back with another yearly update. I'm just gonna first give a quick overview of how everything is now. Not much has changed since my last video, and then I'm gonna answer some questions that I get asked a lot about my surgeries and recovery. As a reminder, my initial surgery was April of 2018, and I had my ACL reconstructed with the patellar tendon graft, and I had my medial and lateral meniscus repaired. Then I had my medial meniscus trimmed in May of 2019 and trimmed again in September of 2022. My range of motion is the same since the last update. My extension is exactly the same as my non-operated leg, but my flexion is just slightly stiffer and maybe a couple degrees less. This has been the case for several years now, but it does not affect me in terms of soccer or performance, so it's not really something that I'm focused on, and it's close enough to not really cause me any issues. As for strength, I feel like there's a slight difference, but again, I'm not noticing it in terms of performance. I don't feel any difference when I'm on the field or running or cutting or anything like that. Just certain things in terms of raw strength in the gym. Along with that, if you look at the size, my left quad is always just slightly struggling, especially the VMO area is just slightly smaller, and this has all been consistent over the last several years. So other than that, I'm fully back. I've been playing professional soccer for several years now, and I don't really experience much difference. So now I'll get into some questions, and the first one is that people want to know is everything normal, or did I experience anything after my first surgery? And yes, I had 2 additional surgeries since my initial surgery, but both of those were related to my meniscus and not my ACL. But it just goes to show that when they're repairing a meniscus, there's always a chance for failure, and that can cause things to come up later. However, since then, I feel very normal. I don't notice my knee at all when I'm playing or doing most things. The only occasional issue I have is some knee pain in the front of my knee, kind of tendonitis feeling, which is something that I had even before my surgery. How long it took me to do certain things, and I really have broken that down in previous videos already, and I made a video in the last few months that breaks down every milestone of my recovery. But just for reference, it took me about 11 and a half months to return to soccer after my first surgery, or how you can mentally be okay playing sports again after having such a big injury and surgeries. And the main thing is that my recovery was very progressive. I did not move to the next step until I was really ready to, according to my surgeon and my physical therapist. So by the time I would try something new, I really felt confident about where I was, and I was ready to take the next little step. Everything built up very slowly. So the first time I ever tried something, it was definitely scary, but it was very manageable and small, and it was under the supervision of my physical therapist. So by the time I was actually playing soccer again, I had already been training with a team and doing passing patterns and doing non-contact stuff and really slowly building everything up. So then it was just that last step to be able to take contact again. People often ask, when can I do some specific thing? And I'm not in that something you need to talk with a physical therapist and a doctor about, and also to know that everybody's timeline is different. So even if I could, let's say, jog at 5 months, you may be able to do that sooner, or it might take you longer. I've also had a lot of questions about braces, how long to wear a brace or what kind of braces and things like that. And I've answered this before, but just to clarify, I never wore a brace. My knee was never locked out. I never had a brace right after surgery, and that was my surgeon's choice. And along with the brace question, people then ask what's on my knee in certain videos, and I did wear a compression sleeve during my workouts or after my workouts to help manage a little bit of the swelling, and also kind of keep my knee a little warmer. I will put some links below. People also have asked about different grafts, which one to get or why I didn't get certain ones. And I will say that I've heard a lot now about a quad tendon graft, and that was not an option given to me when I was going through my surgery. Again, I had the patellar tendon graft, and the reason I had that is the only options that were given to me was that or the hamstring graft. And because I deal with some hamstring issues, I did not want the hamstring graft taken, and my surgeon did recommend the patellar tendon graft because of the bone-to-bone healing. So for me, that's held up great. It's been really strong. My recovery was harder and a little bit more painful, especially in the early section of it, because they took additional section out of the knee. So that is something to consider, but for my long-term goals, I was willing to undergo a little bit harder and longer recovery for a potentially better, stronger long-term result. The last question I'm going to answer today is about how you stay motivated throughout recovery, especially when it gets really difficult. It was a very tough time in my life, but so I had a overarching long-term and important like goal that was my why, and then I had broken it down into like little daily goals of like what do I need to do today to get a little bit better. And then besides that, I stayed involved in my sport through coaching, and that really helped me like keep my mind active. It helped me feel like I was making an impact in another way, and it also like kept me hungry to come back to my sport. And what I wish I would have done a little more of is like kind of have a bit more fun or spend time with family, friends, and like doing things that are more exciting, because I think honestly a little bit of distraction goes a long way. So staying busy in other ways and like keeping your life enriched and fulfilled is a really good way to like make the whole recovery process a little bit better and less miserable. So yeah, those are the questions I'm going to answer today for my 7-year post-op update. If you want like a full video on any of those, or you have other questions, feel free to leave them below. Things have been really stable for a while, but people keep asking, you know, like how things are. So I want to just keep checking in like every year and following along with that. So that is all for this update, and I'll see you guys in my next video.